So in Lower Burma, I was a British subdivisional police officer stationed to uphold the peace and be the face of imperialism. At this point in time, the local nationals had a real disliking for us Europeans, and they showed that in very simple, petty ways. It was things like talking behind our backs and laughing and pointing and yelling obscenities. Um, it was never anything physical altercations or fighting, unless you count the cheap shots that they'd throw in a match that the referee would conveniently be looking the other direction. But although I was hated, everyone knew me, and that was a win in my book. If only they had known that I was for the views of the Burmese and against the views of the empire that my uniform represented, maybe our relationship would have been a little different. Neither here nor there. Anyways, one day I get a call about an elephant running around a marketplace in a village nearby on the other side of town. And there's nothing really alarming about this or unusual, as this happens all the time with male elephants, and when their testosterone levels peak up, they go into this rampage or this must state of must. And um, the only other person that could handle the situation was MIA, about 12 hours in the wrong direction. So they gave me a little choice, so I jumped on my horse, grabbed my 44 caliber Winchester, and head out on my way um, to this village to see if I could find out what was going wrong. So I met a Burmese official officer, and as I rode into this small hillside uh, village made up of bamboo huts and straw leaf rooftops. The air was heavy and it was very overcast from the morning rain, um, very humid, and we started asking around for, asking the locals where this elephant was or is or went. And we got mixed responses. Some said it was over here, and some said it was over there, and some said there was no elephant. So by this point, we were thinking that it might have been a false alarm, and there was no elephant. Right as I almost got on my horse to ride back home, I hear these screams coming from a hut not too far away, and she was a woman screaming at these two children, the switch and shooing them away from her hut. We obviously made our way over there to see what the chaos and what the panic was, and that's when I saw the man face down in the mud, um, killed obviously by this elephant. Um, the man was he was laying face down in a foot of mud. His head was turned slightly sideways, and he had this look of agony on his face, um, painful smile from ear to ear that showed just how tremendously painful his final moments were, or maybe his attempt at that last grasp of air underneath that mud and all that tonnage of that animal. His back had been shaved like an animal almost. The skin was gone. And at this point, I knew that I'm going to need a bigger weapon, and the situation might be a little more serious. So I sent someone over to a friend's house who lived close by to grab his elephant rifle. And when the crowd of people saw this exchange of weaponry, they immediately started to gather and speculate a little more. So I got the gun with 5 rounds, and we get word of someone found the elephant over in a paddy field a few hundred yards away, and it was no longer rampaging and riding around. It was at ease, and it was just eating in a paddy field. So we make way, and we start making our way down there, and I realize that behind me I have about 2,000 people following me, thinking that I'm going down there to kill this elephant. I didn't want to kill the elephant. I don't, My plan was to go down and see how it was acting. It looked okay from a distance. I'd get a little closer and see how its demeanor was, and if it was minding its own business, we'd hang out and wait for its master to come home. The closer we got, the more I felt the eyes of the spectators and onlookers of the village. I could feel those 2,000 eyes beaming into me, and I came upon a moral quandary. Do I shoot this elephant, or do I let it, or do I follow protocol and let it wait out? The elephant sat there eating its grass. It was picking up the grass and wiping the mud off on its knees and eating it. And it was not giving me any reason to shoot it. But as I look back on the locals, their eyes fixed me with the anxious smiles and eagerness, it brought me upon the moral quandary of, do I give these people what they want to show to win their hearts? So it became a hearts and minds deal, where if I do the moral thing or if I do what's right in the eyes of the people. And not only of that, I had to uphold the face of the imperialistic way. So it came only one choice and one option, and that was I had to kill this elephant. Remember, the paddy fields were too muddy, so I decided to take the prone position on the side of the road where we stood, about 8 yards from the elephant. I remember his left side was facing us. I looked down the old iron sights of the German rifle, and I remember pulling the trigger, but no sound, no feeling came from the weapon. I remember seeing the round penetrate that thick gray skin, but with no sound, it dropped to its knees, almost as if paralyzed, as if its life was flashing before his eyes. The crowd erupted in cheer. I fired a second shot to finish the job, and he actually climbed up to his feet and stood up weakly. I fired a third shot, and that's when the elephant went down and collapsed, stirring up enough strength for one last song trumpeted through his trunk. But he was still breathing. You could see down his pink, pink pale throat as he gasped for his last remaining breaths. I shot my last 2 rounds into his heart. And that still didn't kill him. Still not dead, the locals rushed in, stripped this animal of its skin, of its fat, of its meat. And before leaving, I took my .44 and shot it multiple times in the heart and down its throat until I couldn't stand by anymore. And I left, only to hear the next day and time after that elephant stayed alive for 30 minutes after I shot it. Not 5 times, not 6 times, but more than 10 times. And what was it for? Was it for the people of Burma? Was it for myself, or was it for my country? I'd like to think I say I did it for what I thought was best, but I feel as if I only did it to prevent being looked at as a fool. What do you think?